Welcome back to On the Money. I'm Rob Herdig. I'm here with my good friend Ryan Wheelis. Ryan, we're talking about legacy planning today, right?
We are, man. It's a complex thing about legacy planning, right? Because people have a desire to leave money to their kids. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And we have a saying in Allied Wealth, Rob. How long does it take your kids to go through your money once they inherit it on average?
What's that?
10 months. 10 months.
Really?
You know why it takes 10 months?
Why's that?
It takes them 9 months to get your will through probate. And folks, the thing about it is you will never ever see a U-Haul behind a hearse at a funeral.
Right.
Why?
What's it?
You can't take it with you, right? You can't. So, I'm making light of this stuff, folks, because we are talking about death, and death's a sad thing. But nonetheless, you absolutely have to have a good estate plan and a good legacy plan to make sure what happens to your assets goes where you want them to go in the manner that you want them to go. But more importantly, folks, make sure your family remains intact after you die.
Right.
'Cause I can't tell you the number of times people think they got slighted. Oh, I was supposed to get grandma's china, and you were supposed to get grandma's ring, and I was supposed to get this, and they didn't get these things, and they all hate each other.
Yeah.
Now Christmas is awkward. Birthdays are awkward.
Right.
Your family doesn't.
Or they don't even talk anymore.
They don't even talk anymore.
I
know you didn't want that for your family, and a good, properly executed estate plan can help mitigate all that risk.
I think sometimes people hear the word legacy planning or estate planning, and they think trusts and wills, right? But it's more than that, right? It's having a game plan, making sure that your intentions get fulfilled. And that could mean leaving your name on the university where you went to school,
Sure.
or making sure your kids and grandkids get to live a life that you didn't get to live yourself, right?
Absolutely.
But what do you have to have before any of this can happen?
Well, before any of that can happen, you've got to have a written comprehensive financial plan.
Yeah.
A written comprehensive financial plan that provides you income in retirement, an investment plan, all right, that helps mitigate downside risk and maximize upside return and fight inflation, all right? You got to have a tax plan, because the more you give to Uncle Sam now, the less you have to give to your heirs later. So you got to have a tax plan.
But you can only do that proactively. You can't do that in arrears.
No question. And Rob, to that end, you got to have a health care plan.
Right.
Because what if I get old and I need long-term care? The last thing you want to do, folks, and this is a part of a legacy plan, by the way, that people overlook, don't be a burden to your children.
Right.
That can be a legacy plan.
Right.
I have a client, very good friend of mine, by the way. His name is Brian. Brian has 2 brothers and a sister. They don't make near as much money as Brian, and Brian was paying $8,000 a month for 3 years for his mom's care. $8,000 a month. And he was delaying funding his own retirement to do that.
That's insane.
It's insane. It absolutely is
You
insane.
do a little planning on the front side, you can have a lot of these things addressed, right?
No question about it, but it takes time to plan on the front side, and so many people are, they're in the mindset, I'm just going to throw some money at the wall, and my retirement number's a bazillion, and I'm just going to hope something good happens, folks. That's not a plan. A proper plan is executed, it's documented, you know what's going to have built into it. It has contingencies in place for changes, that sort of thing. And folks, for all reasons, the most important part is I don't know of anybody who dies and wants to see their family torn apart because things weren't left behind in a good order,
right?
From the afterlife, if you will.
And that can happen for people that have a plan, but they don't do what? They don't update it, right?
Well, so that's a really good thing, Rob. One of the things we capitalize on often in Allied Wealth is when people come in, they want to show us their money.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not interested in your money. I'm interested in who you are as a person, because I want to find out if I can help you, if I can work with you, and you can work with me as well. But one of the things I want to do first is I want to look at your beneficiaries, especially if you come to us for an estate plan evaluation, which we're going to offer, by the way, at the end of the show. So many times we do an estate plan evaluation, and people have taken time to build a trust. Yeah. They've gone to see the estate planning attorney. They have the trust in place. But what they don't do is they don't update the beneficiary designations on their accounts. That's their IRAs, if you're leaving an IRA to a trust, your transfer on death accounts, your bank accounts, CDs, other investments you may have. They don't take time to update those beneficiaries. Yeah. And so they think that because they have a trust, that takes care of it. But I got news for you, folks. The trust document does not take care of it. If you leave your estate to where your assets are not flowing into the trust via beneficiary designation, the trust is trumped by what's on the beneficiary designation form.
So you can make a bad situation where you're grieving and sad a much worse situation. Like if your ex-wife got your money and your current wife was left with nothing, and it happens. I've heard these stories.
I am working with a lady right now who husband and wife married, had a kid, they divorced, husband remarried, second wife and husband were married for 30 years. He did really well for a major oil company, but he left the first wife as his beneficiary on the 401k.
Oh my gosh.
All right, they did trust planning, estate planning, and the whole 9 yards. He never updated that beneficiary. He died, okay? The first wife got the 401k and happily kept the money because the relationship was contentious. All right. Now, the good news is that the pension went to the second wife, so she's not entirely broke. But that's something I actually dealt with and experienced on my own.
That could have been completely prevented, 100%
No question
on the
about it.
front side.
No question about it.
But you can't do it after. It's another thing. You can't do it after the
You
fact.
can't do it after the fact. And so many people just overlook that so important part of the estate plan.
You know, it's interesting. I think, you look at life insurance, people don't like to talk about it. You look at estate planning, they don't like to talk about it. And I think it's because it involves them no longer being here.
It
right?
does, it does. And to that end, Rob, the other thing too is that, tax laws have changed a lot, right? So we talk about how one of the most punitive things in the tax code is the fact that when a spouse dies, the surviving spouse can file a joint tax return for one more year.
Yeah.
But after that year, they must start filing as a single filer, which creates a much, much higher tax rate on their current income and can lower their standard of living. So if that couple would have taken time to do Roth IRA conversions and had a Roth IRA conversion plan, all right, along the way, they could have helped mitigate that risk of the spouse having surviving spouse having a lower standard of living because they're paying more taxes.
Lower income, higher tax rates.
That's exactly right. And then to that end, the other thing to think about too is, if you've got a couple $1 million, $3, $4, $5 million, there's a correlation with people who have a lot more money to sending their kids to school.
Yeah.
Okay. So if mom and dad have a $3, $4, $5 million IRA, and they dump that on their son or daughter's plate, who they sent to school, now they're both working at Exxon, making $300,000 or $400,000 a year. Well, the son and daughter have to liquidate those IRA accounts over a 10-year period under the new Secure Act.
Yeah.
All right. So if you've got $4 million in a 401k or IRA, all right, 10% a year is added on to your kid's income. So if he's making $250,000 a year, he's having to pull out $400,000 a year out of that IRA and pay tax on it. You just blew up his current income situation, and you're paying more money to the government, all right, when he could have done some Roth planning along the way, which is a big part of legacy planning.
Right.
And so many advisors look over a good Roth conversion strategy down the way for their surviving spouse's taxes going up and the taxes they could create for their kids.
There's never been a better time. Taxes have been on sale for 40 years. And with this current tax plan, take advantage of it. And we talk about taxes and legislative risk. Talk about the legislative risk on the estate, right? It's probably the most advantageous time in history to be proactive about planning for the estate,
Rob,
right?
We talk about all the time how would you play a board game with your kids if you held all the cards and could change the rules?
Right.
No, and they can change the rules on you anytime they want to. And you can't do anything
What's the
about
exclusion right now?
$22 million.
And what was it just 10 years
ago?
It's
been as little as $1 million, and as little as $600,000, and as little as $1 million.
Think about that.
And I got news for you, folks. Uncle Sam is broke. He's $30 trillion in debt, and they're going to be grabbing things like crazy. And I believe very strongly the death tax, as we call it, will come back into play and could very well create a situation where a lot more of your hard-earned dollars does not where you want it to go. It goes to where Uncle Sam wants it to go, in their pocket. They're bad business people, by the way. So what do we do about it, folks? Well, what we do about it is we have an estate plan evaluation to offer for the folks who are watching the show. And to get it, it's 844-944-7555, the number to call. Again, 844-944-7555. One more time, 844-944-7555. Pick up the phone right now and call us. Our phone lines are open right now. And to that end, what we're going to do is look at your estate plan and make sure, most importantly, your beneficiary designations in your accounts match your estate plan. Yeah. We're going to build a Roth conversion strategy for you to make sure we disinherit Uncle Sam from your IRAs as much as possible. It's all part of our estate plan evaluation. 844-944-7555. Stay with us. We'll be right back with some more great information for you.
When was the last time you saw your financial professional? Are you getting the most out of the strategy that was created for you? Although you've done a great job finding someone to help plan for your future, are you 100% sure that you were given the right strategy? We can help answer these questions and more with a complimentary second opinion evaluation. We will take a look at what you have in place and then help determine if you're well positioned to get the most out of your future retirement income. In the event that it is not, we can help by making suggestions and showing you how to get on the right path. You wouldn't get just one opinion when it comes to a major health decision, so why would you treat your most important financial decision with such disregard? Call today for your no-cost, no-obligation second opinion evaluation to see if you're getting the most out of your retirement income plan.
Welcome to On the Money. I'm Rob Herdig. I'm here with my good friend Ryan Wheelis. Ryan, how are we doing today?
Man, I'm doing great. Looking forward to a great show, folks. We got a lot of very valuable content for you. You're going to get a lot out of this, so stay tuned.
I'm excited about today's show. I'm a little confused, though. At the top of the the page here you have written, the greatest trick ever played. I'm confused. I'm intrigued, though, a little bit. What exactly are we talking about
Man,
here?
it's, in the old days, Rob, you worked for a company for 30 or 40 years, and you retired, you got a gold watch, and you got a pension.
Right.
And that pension replaced 80% of your paycheck. And then a few years later, you got onto Social Security. And while you were getting that word on Social Security, you got a subsidy, right? And basically your income was replaced once you retired.
Right.
And the interesting thing is very few people had money in the stock market.
You look at the volume of the stock market prior to, 1978, 79, and it's almost nothing, correct?
It's almost nothing. Well, if you look from the year 1978 to the year 2000, the return of the stock market was over 1,000%.
Wow.
That is 3 times any 20-year history prior to 1978 to really 1980 to the year 2000. And so what you had is all of a sudden all these dollars are chasing these stocks in the market, and we had a massive melt up. And people just thought, hey, this is the way things are now, right? But it was a massive shift away from the old way of doing things to where your company did the investments for you, right?
Right.
They managed the pension fund.
Yeah.
You didn't have to worry about it. You got mailbox money for the rest of your life as long as you had breath in your body.
Right.
And that was it. It was so simple back in the days.
You know what's interesting about that is when you look at that time in history, it was almost impossible to fail at retirement, right?
It really was. I mean, you couldn't fail, right? I mean, you had a guaranteed source of income. It was there regardless of what happened with the economy, the stock market, interest rates, all of which directly impact people today because the majority of their assets is inside this thing called the 401k.
So these employers lobbied to Congress, right? Lobbied to the representative and said, hey, we want you to take the responsibility of retirement off of our shoulders and put it on the employees' shoulders, right? That sounds like a dirty trick. I see where you're coming from, but I think there's more, right?
There's more to it, though.
Let's hear it.
Right? Because what's happened is we've been taught to defer taxes.
Right.
So put your money into this 401k and let's defer, right? So that you've got these dollars going in. You get a tax deduction now. Well, most of us live in the now, right?
Right.
So that tax deduction today is awesome, okay? And so the money goes in, it's not been taxed. It grows tax-free during the growth period.
Right.
But when you retire, you have to fund your own retirement. You are now responsible, folks, for funding your own retirement, okay? And to do that, we take distributions out of our 401k. And every single one of those dollars that you pull out of that 401k is 100% taxable.
Right, and what you're saying is we're playing a game where we don't even know what the rules are going to be, right? Everybody walks around with this number in their head of what they need to retire, right?
That's right.
There's commercials that show it, right? People are walking around, they've got the $1 million over their head, but what have they not done? They haven't done the math, right? And they don't know what the tax rates are going to be down the road. So what you're saying, that is a filthy trick, man. It's dirty.
It's dirty because now your money is locked away inside this 401k, and to get it out, you got to pay taxes on it. And we don't know what tax rates are going to be in the future. Our country's $30 trillion and climbing. By the end of the show, it might be $31 trillion.
Hey, you look at the way we're spending money in Washington, it reminds me of a company that's going bankrupt, and the executives are using their credit cards as fast as they can. They're like, what can we get right now?
Exactly.
I mean, it's what's going on. And people, I hate to say it, but I've got a pretty good perspective. I work with practices like yours all over the country, and it seems like even with all the stuff that we're facing right now, people kind of have their heads in the sand.
There's no question about it, Rob. We see it so often, and it's such a big deal because here's an example. What people don't, this is how bad it is. Think about the 401k you have. Let's say you've got $1 million.
Yeah.
How much of that 401k is actually yours?
You've got a business partner. He wears a big red, white, and blue hat. He looks like he's friendly, right? He looks like he's your friend.
And
he's coming to take your money, right?
He's very bad at business, Rob. Very bad.
He's the worst businessman there is.
I mean, nobody would want this guy as a business partner, folks. Nobody. And it's your Uncle Sam. It's the government.
What blows my mind is people are relying on the advice they get from the government that's creating the problems, right? Hey, inflation's not bad. No, it is bad. Now you have taxes. You have all these things happening where you're losing control over your assets, right?
Rob, here's what's even worse, and this is one of the most, taxes in general are one of the most overlooked things when it comes to retirement planning that we see. And it's amazing how people come into our office and they've been working with an advisor they trust for years. And I go, where's your tax plan? Where's your Roth conversion plan? How are we going to disinherit Uncle Sam from your estate?
I like
when you
that,
pass
disinherit
on?
Uncle Sam.
Yeah,
That's
right.
good.
So and make sure your heirs get the money and not him. And they're like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
I haven't done this planning. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, because here's what's really crazy. When you have a husband and wife team, and one of the spouses dies, the remaining spouse can file a joint tax return for 12 months.
Yeah.
After which, that spouse, likely the wife, by the way, statistically, has to start filing a single filer tax return. That increases the taxes on her income,
Yeah.
her Social Security, can cause our Medicare premiums to go up and can even create Medicare surcharges.
That's after half your income's gone away, right?
It's exactly right. Half your, because you lose a Social Security benefit too.
It's insane. People don't understand how this compounds and what it really does to your retirement dreams. So you could go from a position of being able to thrive in retirement, which is what you help people do, to a position to where you're just surviving.
Well, think about this, Rob. That's a variable, right?
Yeah.
Meaning that position of being able to retire and not being able to retire, not sustain the lifestyle you want to live in retirement, it can change based on what they do in Congress.
Right.
So
it's a legislative risk, right? People talk about all these other
massive
risks in
political-
retirement, but it's a legislative risk that you have no control over.
Zero.
You and I were talking, our kids, we both have kids, and I've got a bunch. You've got 2 little ones, and my kids like to play board games, and we were talking, would your kids play a board game if you said, hey, I'll tell you the rules at the end of the game, and by the way, I get to change the rules whenever I see fit? Would they do that?
No, never, not in a million years. Right?
It's insane.
But that's what's happening with the 401k and the law and the IRS tax code and the law changes.
What I worry about with our industry is, if you're a doctor, medical terms mean the same thing across the board. If you're an attorney, legal definitions mean the same thing from here to California to anywhere. But with our business, risk doesn't mean the same thing everywhere. Having a plan doesn't mean the same thing everywhere. In a time like this, I think it's important that we get a second opinion. I mean, would you agree with that?
Well, we ask the viewers at home all the time, Rob, do you have enough confidence in your current financial plan or your current financial advisor to seek a second opinion? And the answer to that question is absolutely yes.
Yeah.
And if it's no, you need help.
Either way, you should have it looked at.
That's exactly right.
I mean, we've had a 10-year period of return after return. We have this false sense of confidence, and it's, I think it's maybe leading people astray a little bit. What do you think?
I think it is. And Rob, I'm a seasoned aviator. I fly a lot of airplanes and been doing it a long time. And one of the quickest things that can kill you in an aircraft is complacency.
Right.
And that's what's happened over the last 15, 20 years. Even though we had the COVID crash, it was short-lived.
Yeah.
People are like, hey, I got burned a little bit, but the fire was out very quickly.
We ended
I
the
don't have to
year
worry
up.
about it.
So we always try to give people an opportunity to fix things on their own. And what can somebody do? Go back to school and become a CPA?
Go become a CPA, go become a tax lawyer. The tax code, we're in a studio right now, could fill this entire studio.
Right,
Thank
so
you.
it's time consuming.
Big time.
What else could they do?
Well, they could reach out to us and they could take advantage of our tax strategy session, folks. And to get that, all you got to do is call us here. The number is 844-944-7555. Again, 844-944-7555. And what we will do is a tax analysis on your overall portfolio and figure out a strategy to allow you to keep more money in your pocket and pay way less to Uncle Sam. And what that does, by the way, Rob, if I can reduce your tax liability in retirement, I can create a portfolio that allows you to take lower risk.
Right.
Right? You don't have to take as much risk at return and live the same lifestyle you wish to live.
You've worked hard for it. Call and get it.
Might as well keep it.
Hey guys, we'll be right back after the break. We've got more good stuff to talk about. Stick with us.
The work never seems to end until it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's just beginning. Live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams. Find out how today.
Welcome to On the Money. I'm Rob Herdig. I'm here with Ryan Wheelis. Ryan, how we doing?
I'm doing well, man. It's a crazy world out there today, Rob. We've got a great show for the great folks at Houston. Folks, stay tuned. Man, we're talking today about inflation.
Yeah.
And it's just, you call it the hidden tax. I call it the hidden tax.
Yeah. People call it the stealth tax.
Stealth tax.
Whatever you want to call it.
It's a tax.
But we didn't vote for it.
No, we didn't vote for it at all. And here's what's crazy is, the Fed right now is trying to fight inflation with raising interest rates.
Yeah.
But nobody's talking about the 8,000-pound gorilla in the room, and that's the supply chain.
Right.
Right. Until we get the supply chain fixed, I believe the Fed can raise rates all they want to, and nothing's going to really happen except more stuff's going to cost more. Right. But the supply chain issues are largely political.
It's intro to business, right?
It
when
really
you have
is.
a limited supply, guess what? Costs go up.
That's exactly right.
Right.
That's exactly right. So, the thing about it is we're seeing the highest inflation rates in the country that we've seen in 40 years. And folks, I think the current print's about 8.8. I think we're about to see go over 9%.
Yeah.
And so the Fed's likely going to raise rates at a rate of 0.75% for the rest of the year, which is it's insane.
There's some people that are talking that the rates have to be raised to the point where they match the inflation rate, right?
That's exactly right.
You think what that does to consumerism. What's that do to your vacations, your credit card bills, going and borrowing for a car or a home. What does that do for that?
Well, it raises the cost of everything.
It raises
right?
the cost of everything.
If your interest rate on your credit card goes from 20% up to 30%, and unfortunately a lot of us out there live paycheck to paycheck,
right.
you know, we can't do those things. We can't go out and enjoy vacations. We can't travel. We in some cases can't buy gas. We can't buy groceries.
Yeah, what are you giving up? You know, you and I were talking about this, and I think the reason people don't understand the severity of it, when you look at the 100-year average for inflation, it's 3.24%. The last decade was like 2.1, 2.19.
Very low.
So all you had to do, if you were abiding by the 5% rule, which we've talked about a lot in other shows, other segments, and you were taking a 4 or 5% withdrawal from your retirement funds, if you were getting a 7% return, even with inflation, you were still
going up.
Still going up. Now we have 8.9% inflation.
Well, add a 5% distribution rate on top of that. It's 13.9, right?
What,
your portfolio needs to be earning 13.9% per year just to keep up with inflation in your expenditures. And on top of that, all right, think about the risk somebody has to take to get a 13.9% average annual return.
Oh my gosh. You know, I think people thought it was easy the last decade, right? We just had we had a 12-year period, 14-year period where the market just went up and up and up. And these people got this false sense of confidence. The do-it-yourselfers did, I think money managers did, financial advisors did. And now we're in this point in history where we have all these things working against us, and inflation's doing a lot of the heavy lifting here.
It really is, and that's not going to change anytime soon. Like I said, until they fix the supply chain, I think the issues remain the same. But folks, you know, the thing about it is, I'm not trying to be doom and gloom with you, because that's not who we are at Allied Wealth. But to that end, you know, a lot of people are stuck in the 60-40, you know, stock and bond portfolio, and the universe of investments that they have are stocks and bonds, right? Well, if you look this year, the greatest performing asset class by a mile is energy stocks, right? And so you can move money over to energy stocks. You can move money towards commodities. You can move money towards gold. Real estate can do well in an inflationary environment. But so many people are kind of stuck in this pigeonholed, one-size-fits-all portfolio, and the universe of investments doesn't go beyond that stock and bond mix. And so they don't have the ability to allocate to gold or allocate to commodities or allocate to energy stocks. And so if you don't have that, folks, and you're feeling the pressure, you might want to reconsider a different approach, and we can offer that for you at Allied Wealth.
You know what's interesting? Like people save all this money for retirement. They have this big nest egg that they've saved, and they look at it as a lump sum, and they don't realize that they have to turn that into what in retirement? Income, right? They only look at it as a lump sum. They don't look at it as an income stream. And the numbers you showed me before the show, at 6% inflation, your income need doubles every, what was it, 12 years? Is that right?
Yep.
And right now we're at 8.9. That's about every 7.
Every 7 years.
So explain what that means. So if you need $100,000 a year right now in retirement.
In 7 years, you need $200,000.
So where's that coming from?
It's coming out of your portfolio.
And most people haven't factored in taxes or any market downturns or anything else.
And most advisors have been planning with a very low inflation rate for a very long period of time that hasn't been here. And a lot of people haven't really seen what the long-term impacts their portfolio the impact that inflation can have on their portfolio.
Right.
And folks, if that's you, I can tell you right now, we offer a winning retirement plan strategy session on the show. Take advantage of it. To get it's 844-944-7555, and we will show you the long-term effects of inflation. And what it's going to do is bring down the long-term probability of success of your overall plan. But don't worry, there are things we can do to help mitigate that downside risk, help mitigate the effects of inflation in your portfolio. But if you just put your head in the sand and don't do anything, I promise you, like Rob said a minute ago, your income will double if this rate stays the same, which it very well could for quite some time.
Right.
And you know, you're going to run out of money very, very soon if you don't really have an inflation-adjusted plan.
So the terrifying thing is most people live in retirement. The average person lives in retirement for 18 years, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not uncommon for somebody to live 20, 25, 30 years in retirement. So if your income need doubles in 7 years, or let's dumb it down, in 6 years, what you can't go to work at that point. You're 78, 79 years old at that point.
You can be a Walmart greeter, maybe.
Right.
But I mean, most of the people that I work with, they didn't work the life, as hard as they did in life to go back to work when they retire, right? And so it's one of those things where you really got to take that into play as you're doing these retirement plans.
Yeah, I think it's important. Get a first opinion, get a second opinion, get a third opinion. If you don't feel comfortable, keep talking to people, right? Get good guidance. You only get one chance at this.
Yeah, and to that end, Rob, the other thing that could happen is, your lifestyle will change, right? Yeah. So if your income need is $200,000 a year out of your portfolio, and there's no way your portfolio is going to sustain that, the only thing you can do is what? Go back to work, stop drawing money out of your portfolio.
Move in with your kids.
Or reduce your income.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to move in with their kids.
Yeah,
I promise you that.
That's what you work so hard your whole life for.
Well, one of the number one concerns that people have today is running out of money. but running out of money leads them to being a burden on their children, and nobody wants that.
Man, it's really interesting. You know, I see so many people that are willing to put their own financial success on the sideline because their relationship with their financial advisor seems to be more important to them. And it's, to me, you're playing with fire.
I have seen it time and time again. You know, I've been with Bill. We were buddies in the Vietnam War. He's been my guy for 20 or 30 years. He comes to Christmas dinners, you know, that sort of thing. And then what we do is it's okay, come on in and see us. We'll do a portfolio x-ray and let's just make sure that Bill's doing right by you, right?
Right.
Not that Bill's not a good guy or whatever, but sometimes Bill has a limited menu of products and services he can offer people that walk into the door.
Yeah.
Because he works for a company he works for, not you, the client, like we do at Allied Wealth for fiduciaries. We work for the clients, right? And we test Bill's portfolio and we find out the risk is too high, the fees are too high, commissions are there, and Bill's got to make a buck. No wrong to Bill. But the reality is the clients are not getting the value they deserve for the money they're spending in that portfolio. They're not getting the returns back. They're taking too much risk, and they will see that, but they'll walk out of the office and just keep on doing what they're doing.
Man, with what's going on in the world right now, I want to reach through the TV screen and shake people and say, man, wake up and go see somebody, get a second opinion. And people, you know, everybody says, hey, this isn't me. It's got to be somebody else they're talking about. You know, it happens to intelligent people that saved a lot of money.
For sure.
My mom, you know, worked for, you know, a big pharmaceutical company for a long time and did really well on her own and saved a lot of money. And when she went to retire, my mom's got a higher level degree. She's got a master's degree. She's smart. When she went to retire, you know what she said? This stuff is confusing. It's overwhelming. And I think, you know, there's a lot of smart people that have saved money that feel the exact same way out there. And if you have that feeling, right, you should call in.
Absolutely.
Hey, we're going to break right now. What do we have for people?
Folks, we have a winning retirement plan built for you, customized, tailored for you. What we do is test what you're currently doing, test your current portfolio against your goals, test it against taxes, test it against long-term inflation, and see if we can get your probability of success to maintain a level of 85% all the way through retirement, regardless of what happens with the stock market, the economy, inflation, or interest rates. And to get it is so easy. All you have to do is pick up the phone and call us. It's 844-944-7555. Again, 844-944-7555. I'm the same guy in the office as I am right here on the show. So if you like me here, you'll love me in the office. Give us a shout.